What up, B Squad? It is me, JB, and I am here today with another review for Bel-Air Season 4. This is Episode 2, and this episode is titled Be a Kid. So, before we go ahead and get into it, if you guys are watching this video or any other on the channel and you're not subscribed yet, then I need you guys to do me a solid favor and stop taking me out on this date and then having me pay for it at the end of it. You guys know the routine. You can do me that favor by liking the video, subscribing to the channel, you guys, turning on your post notifications, and also by sharing the video. And with that out of the way, without further ado, let us discuss Bel Air, shall we? Okay, so this episode it opens up. And so we see as Will and Carlton are coming down the stairs, and Will is excited about the new merch, whereas Carlton is looking on, line and he sees nothing being reported about the car being vandalized that they, tore up, right? And Uncle Phil came and told them, like, hey, we're having a family meeting with each other. And so when they got down there for the family meeting, this is where Uncle Phil and Aunt Viv let them know that Jeffrey is alive, well, and okay, right? So everyone is excited and happy to see Jeffrey, especially Will, right? So Jeffrey lets them know that at this point they are completely safe, right? So then, Ashley notices that Jeffrey's arm is in the sling. So she asks him, like, what happened to your arm? And Uncle Phil chimed in. He was like, it was a boxing accident, right? And so Ashley and Carlton left, leaving Will in, with Jeffrey. So Will goes up to Jeffrey and he was like, yo, G, like, I heard the gunshot. So boxing accident, huh? And he was like, I'm not a kid. Like, I can handle my business. And Jeffrey was like, you can handle your business, but you know that, well, Jeffrey let him know that, hey, yeah, you might be protecting yourself, but I also know that you and Carlton went and tore up that car, and the reason that nobody's turned this in is because of me protecting you and Carlton. And so that was that. Now, this week is all about homecoming for the kids, right? So we see as Will, he is talking to Carlton about what happened with Jeffrey, right? So Carlton is wondering if Jeffrey is going to tell his parents what happened. And Will was like, yo, relax. Like, G is not like that. So we don't have anything to worry about. So then, we see as Carlton is asked to homecoming by the girl Marissa. And as he's been asked to homecoming, Amira walks by and Carlton can do nothing but look at Amira. And so then we see as Will went to Lisa's locker and, he asked her to be his date to homecoming and Lisa agrees, right? So now we move back over to Uncle Phil and Jeffrey, right? So the price is raising for Legacy Heights due to the interview that Uncle Phil and Omar did on the news station, right? So Uncle Phil said that, people are now basically clamoring to be a part of Legacy Heights. Like they have a lot of big names that are trying to build businesses there. And, he told Jeffrey, like, with that, I can't, unfortunately, I can't watch the money, right? So Jeffrey said, Phil, it's just a pass through. And, Uncle Phil's like, Jeffrey, I don't care what you're trying to say to me. I have to do this to protect them. And so, well, so Jeffrey's like, okay, cool. And so Uncle Phil told him again, like, it's a no, like, this is not going to work for me. I was like, ugh, we'll see how this plays out, right? So then we move back over to Carlton, right? So Carlton is talking to Amira, and, you know, sh- she told him, like, he has been acting sus. And he explained it again, the fact that you are okay with talking about your journey in rehab, whereas with me, I'm not. Like I'm trying to move past that and better myself and do something different. And so, and he was like, and then when it comes to me and you, like, I just don't know where we stand because they haven't talked since she went to rehab. And so with her, she was like, we all get a clean slate, basically, right? And so essentially she's telling him she understands what he's saying to her, and it's cool. So then a football player by the name of Kareem throws a football up there, and Carlton caught it. He was like, but the football is actually for Amira. And so he gave the football to Amira, and written on it was Kareem asking her to go to homecoming with him, and she said yes. Now moving back over to Uncle Phil and Aunt Viv, right? Aunt Viv is going to her office and she's having morning sickness, right? So Uncle Phil is in her office with things that'll help her with her morning sickness, and she asked him like, "What's going on with he and Jeffrey?" He said, "I didn't tell you what was going on because I didn't want to stress you." But he told her like Jeffrey is working for the syndicate again, and then he told her that they want him to launder money through Legacy Heights. And she asked, "Are you considering it?" He says, "No." And she said, "Are we even safe with Jeffrey in the house with us?" And Uncle Phil feels that, we're safer with him than we are without him. Now we move back to the school and we see Ashley. So Eli is with Ashley, right? And Eli asked Ashley to homecoming, and she said yes, right? So there were these two kids that came up to Ashley, and they are raving about things that Hillary has done as well as Carlton has done, right? And Eli was like, you know what, Ashley's pretty dope herself, right? So while Ashley is getting praises from Eli, in walks Olivia, her old friend, right? And so Olivia came in and called Ashley a flip flopping bitch for dating Eli because she said you went from me to them. I was like, ooh. Now, if I remember correctly, Miss Olivia, you really wasn't feeling Ashley like that, but okay, whatever. Now, we see Drew. So Drew, he came up to Carlton and he asked him if Amira is into butt stuff because he heard that that his boy Kareem is into that. And Carlton was like, "Fuck you, Drew." And so they're walking down the hall, right? And as they're walking down the hall, they hear some commotion, and so they go to see what the commotion is, and it is none other than fucking Connor with White Says merch on. And they were like, dude, if you don't take, and literally it was copy and paste of Black Sis, right? And they were like, if you don't take this shit off, and Connor was like, it's just a joke, like chill out. He's like, Carlton, you know me. And Carlton was like, nah, you're not gonna get me to facilitate that bullshit. He was like, take this shit off. So they all took the shit off, right? Except for one young boy. And he was like, no, I'm not taking it off. Like, why do they get to have Black Sis and we can't have White Sis? And I was like, oh, you one of them. Okay. So they explained, so Will explained it to him, like why he needs to take it off. So then an administrator came and told him to go to class, and they were like, "You're not gonna tell him to take it off?" They're like, "Okay, we see what it is, right?" So then we see as Lisa, she found Amira, and she knows that Amira is going to homecoming with Kareem. And so she asked her, like, well, what about you and Carlton? And Amira's like, you know what, when it comes to me and Carlton, like, I'm not gonna fight for his attention. And Lisa was like, okay, I get that, but let me warn you that Kareem over there, Kareem has a reputation of being a fuckboy. And Amira's like, girl, I'm not trying to wipe him up. Like, I'm good. And so then we move back over to Jeffrey. So he and Aunt Vivian are talking, and she's wondering, like, how can we trust you? And so he was like, well, remember when Hillary and when she first started, high school, that there was this boy with some text messages, Carlton with this bully, Will with the Philly gang and all that kind of stuff. He was like, that is how you know that you can trust me. All the things that I've done for you guys. And I was like, come on, Jeffrey. Now, moving back over to Lisa, because she's talking to the boys because when she was talking to Amira, Amira was basically telling her like she's a goody two shoes, right? So she's talking to the boys about how people perceive her as sweet and boring. Will's like, you know what, babe, I like it. Drew is like, we all have our roles. Carlton is the fuck up. Will is this. I'm that. And then you're the sweet and boring one, right? So while they're talking, they got a notification that all clothing with controversial logo has been banned, and they've decided to combine all affinity groups into one. So BSU, anything like BSU, anything Asian, Jewish, all that stuff, they've been combined under one umbrella, which is so weird to me, but hey. Now, Will suggested, hey, how about we throw our own thing hosted by Black Sis, right? And they were all like, okay, cool, let's do it. Now, while they're coming up with this, they hear Ashley and Olivia getting into it. And Ashley and Olivia, once again, Olivia's calling Ashley a bitch. And Ashley hauled off and, pushed her to the ground and got up on top of the girl and was, trying to fight the girl. I was like, wow. Now we move on. So the kids have secured a spot for homecoming. Drew's dad has paid him for it. And so Lisa, she told Amira, like, hey, girl, I don't want to be known as the Skitty Two Shoes. So I want to join the dance team. Now, we then get to the day of homecoming, right? And so the whole family is there. They've hired extra security for the kids. Carlton, he had a conversation with Jeffrey and he thanked Jeffrey for what he did for he and Will, right? Now, we see Aunt Viv as she is telling Ashley, like, little girl, don't do anything, don't get out of line. And Ashley's like, why? She was like, you got into a fight at school. And Ashley was like, I didn't beat her ass the way that I wanted to. I was like, oh, she was like, whose child are you? So then we move on, right? And so Carlton defended Ashley to Aunt Viv because he was like, the way that white girl was talking to her, she got what she should have got more than what she got, right? So Aunt Viv is talking to Carlton. She's like, your date, she's cute, Marissa. And then she said, I thought you would have come with Amira because Lisa has told Aunt Viv that Amira is going to Bel-Air. That is why I don't see it for Lisa 100%. I know a lot of people like Lisa, but for me, I've never liked Lisa because Lisa's just like she's a goody two shoes in my personal opinion, right? So he told her like, "Hey, I wasn't hiding it from you. It's just been very difficult for him to navigate everything." As we see Uncle Phil, so Uncle Phil is having a conversation with Will, right? And Uncle Phil is just basically letting Will know how proud of him he is. He also presented Will with one of his watches and he gave him some condoms. He's like, you know what? I'm not condoning it, but if it happens, be respectful and use these goddamn condoms, right? So, homecoming, it's a vibe. We see Will, Carlton, and Drew. They do a little performance. Then the girls, the dance team, they came out and did a little number. Lisa did good. They all did good, right? So after that, homecoming is getting, it's on and popping, right? So we see Ashley with Eli and those two kids from school. Ashley done took it upon herself to steal some liquor from the house to bring it here. So Will and Lisa saw her and they had a conversation with her about it. And so Will asked Lisa Ashley like, what's going on? And she was like, she just doesn't want to be in the shadows of Carlton and Will. Meanwhile, we see Carlton, oh, because she looked over and saw Carlton, who was actually doing the Carlton. I said, that is so hilarious, right? So then we see as Uncle Phil, Aunt Viv, and Jeffrey, they went home. And when they got home, the house was completely trashed. So somebody had broke in, ransacked the house, even, destroyed, broke one of their pictures, right? And so Uncle Phil was like, who, they know who did this. And Jeffrey was like, this is how they move. So Uncle Phil said, you know what, Jeffrey, call them and set up a meeting tonight. Now, we move over and we see as Carlton and Marissa are, at one point they were dancing together. Carlton was looking at Kareem, and Amira. And he looked at them the entire night. And Marissa was like, Carlton, if you wanted to come with her, you should have came with her instead of accepting my invitation, right? And he said, it's not like that, right? So then we see Will and Lisa. So Will and Lisa, they don't went off to a secluded spot with each other to get, hot and heavy, right? So Carlton had a conversation with Amira, and he let Amira know what's going on with him. Once again, just how difficult everything is for him. And so Amira, she understood what he was saying, and so he was trying to go in for. It looked like he was trying to go in for a kiss, and Amira was like, "Yeah, Carlton, I'm not your person anymore, and I probably never was your person." I was like, "Okay, Amira, okay, I'm here for it, right?" So we see as move back over to Lisa and Will, who are still in, knocking shit over as they trying to get it in. So they're out there announcing who the homecoming king and queen are, and the homecoming king and queen are Will and Lisa, who had to stop what they were doing and rush out there. So Lisa put her dress back on. Will was trying to put his pants, he had his pants on, but his pants weren't zipped up. So everybody saw them and they kind of knew what they were doing. So after that, we see as Eli had a conversation with Ashley, and he just basically told Ashley, like, hey, I like you the way you are. And so then we end the episode and we see his Uncle Phil. He went to meet Dominique, who is portrayed by his real life wife, who we all know from, if you watch Power, Ghost, she played Noma on Ghost, right? So we get a little deeper into her. So this is quote unquote Jeffrey's sister, not by blood. So her dad took Jeffrey in, and she was like, when he was getting ready to turn over the empire to Jeffrey, Jeffrey took her dad out, right? So Uncle Phil told Dominic, okay, I'll clean your money, but only on my terms. So his terms are that he will clean her money, but the investors, they won't get touched, right? And so so they were getting ready to leave, right? And as they were getting ready to leave, she told Jeffrey, I know that you hired security for Will and Carlton tonight, but I don't know why you did that when I told you that I was, they were good. Maybe, and she said maybe it was me who needed protection from them, because she said that they went and destroyed one of her men's car, broke the tail lights, the headlights, the windows, the mirrors, and all that stuff, right? And she was like, so because of that, I called someone at the LAPD. And then we see as, Will, Carlton, Drew, and his dad, they have cleaned up the venue and they're getting ready to leave. And as they're getting ready to leave, up pulls the police with an arrest warrant for both Will and Carlton. And that is where episode 2 ended, you guys. Good episode. I want you guys to tell me what you thought about it in the comments section below. Subscribe to the channel, you guys. Turn on your post notifications and also share the video. And until the next time, do me a solid favor, you guys. Stay safe out there. Take care of yourselves. Wash your hands. Be blessed. And I'll see you guys in episode number 3. Bye.